Motorhead.
Survival of the quickest.
After a difficult season in 1997-98, without winning a trophy, it was a new-look Sheffield Steelers team that entered training camp. They were under the leadership of a new management duo of coach Don McKee and team manager Dave Sims, after former management team Alex Dampier and Clyde Toole split with the club over the summer. The new season also saw Tim Cranston, Piero Greco, Curry Bolio and former British Young Player of the Year Nicky Chin all leave to other clubs, while ex-Panther top scorer Derek Laxdal and Grant Shervin, the Storm backup goalie, headed the players from the ISL rivals, whilst Dave Sims brought in 5 players that were new to the ISL level: John and Tita Wynn, Craig Chapman, Cale Short, and also ex-Solihull player Shane Henry.
I think that the key was with Don, he came in and he offered a quality reward system. If you were playing well, then you got to play. If you weren't playing so well, he'd have a little chat with you, and maybe if you had to have too many little chats with you, you wouldn't play as much possibly, and he wasn't afraid to tinker with it. And I think that kept everybody fresh. It was like a squad system sort of, you know, in football, and it gave everybody a competitive edge in practice, which only helped the players become better and the team to become better.
Don came in and he was a lot more professional than anything I'd seen. He used to work in the office 12 hours a day and never used to stop.
Everybody was fresh mentally, physically, wanting to impress the new coach. I think Don came in with a very organized situation. I think him and Dave Sims worked really hard to make sure that the preparation off the ice and on the ice was second to none.
The boys gelled straight away. I think there was no really bad apples in the dressing room. Everyone was getting on and all the jokes were flying around probably after the first day. I suppose everyone had a little bit in common, that everyone was knackered off the training session, so everyone got on really well.
I think Don tried to change the lines when he first came in, if I remember, and I know he tinkered with Ken, Tony, Ed. He had them playing with different people, and he was trying to get the most out of them and maybe bring out a better quality in the other players to have a more... I think Don was keying on having a very rounded team, not one-dimensional with the one line. If you shut down the one line, you shut down Sheffield Steelers. I think he tried to make sure that we had 3 good quality lines, and they did different things, and it would work for different purposes within our team frame.
The end of training camp was signified by a challenger game against the Kingston Hawks. They were coached by former Steeler favourite Steve Nemeth. It was a great chance for both new and old players to impress coach Don McKee. The game, however, started off in the worst possible way for Sheffield, when that man, Steve Nemeth, broke away and picked up on his own rebound to beat Grant Shervin. Things got even worse for the Sheffield Steelers when Humberside broke away again, and that man, Winmark, managed to fire past Shervin. It was only after the second goal did the Sheffield Steelers begin to play, and Ed Courtney managed to put one away. It was Ed Courtney again, though, that fed Ken Priestley. That was something we were going to see a lot more of this season. The Steelers' third goal was fashioned by Tony Hand. He fed Tita Wynn, and Tita Wynn on the one time. Ed Courtney got the 4th Steelers goal, going 5-hole. As much as the Steelers pushed on, they weren't able to convert any more chances. It was a respectable score for the Kingston Hawks, 4-2. Not bad against somebody that's a division above you. The Steelers moved forward for the first of many games against the title favourite Manchester Storm. This was also the first chance for many of the new Steelers players to experience a very busy Sheffield arena. The Storm were tipped by many to be the title favourites, and this was sure to be perhaps the first true test of the Sheffield Steelers team for the 98-99 season. It was the Storm that struck first. After a nice pass from Rick Brabant, Hoffman put it high over the catcher side of Grant Shervin. It didn't take the Steelers long to reply, with a Rob Wilson bullet on the power play from the right point. Manchester kept coming forward, and when Dave Morrison put it through Grant Shervin's pads, it was 2-1 Manchester. They were 2-1 down, but Tony Hand put the pass right on Ed Courtney's stick for the slam dunk play. It was 2-all. Manchester refused to let Sheffield stay on level terms, and Kelly Askew pushed the puck right by Grant Shervin to make it 3-2 Storm. After Tommy Plummer was tripped, Ken Priestley got the opportunity to fire past his ex-teammate Frank Pietrangelo. The Steelers couldn't hold on to the lead for that much longer, as falling down, Jeff Tomlinson fired past Grant Shervin to make it 4-3 Storm. With very little time left on the clock, the Steelers threw everything in the Manchester Storm, pulling their goalie. With just 3 seconds left, a great opportunity arose, and Tony Hand thought that he'd scored. Unfortunately, Mike Rowe decided that that was going to be no goal because he'd already blown his whistle. The final score was Manchester 4, Sheffield 3. It wasn't exactly the home start that Don McKee wanted.
The defence were very strong, but when you had a chance to get past the defence, you had to go against Pietrangelo, and probably the best goalie in the league by far. It was just very hard. I think they didn't have a weak link throughout the whole team, and I think a lot of the other teams found that out as well. Where at the beginning of the season, you probably find it hard to see them lose maybe 3 or 4 games all year, but I think as the season went on, everyone else progressed, and they kind of stayed a little bit the way they were, and just consistent. And maybe it was a bit late for the other teams, but as I say, I think they were the best team in the league.
The next home game for the Steelers was against their arch rivals from Lower Parliament Street, still in the B&H Cup competition. In the close season, the Panthers had picked up ex-Sheffield Steelers tough guy Corey Bollian, and shortly after the opening face-off, he made Frank Kovacs realise that he had no split loyalties with the fight that didn't even allow Kovacs to take off his gloves. The Steelers opened the scoring though. After good work from Rob Wilson, Tony Hand laid on a lovely pass for Ed Courtney to fire on the one time, high past Robin's shoulder. It was yet more physical attention for the Steelers as Scott Allison got his elbows a little high on Jarrett Sikorsky. Sikorsky seemed a little dazed, and that can only explain why he wanted to go centre ice with Scott Allison. We all know there's only ever going to be one winner there. After getting a couple of good early shots, Sikorsky takes a beautiful white from Scott Allison. That was his face battered and bruised for the whole game. The Sheffield Steelers extended their lead to 2 after a Rob Wilson's shot was blocked and Tony Hand was there to put away the rebound. It was T to win with a nice spin move that allowed Derek Laxdal to fire home past his former team. It was the most convincing display that Sheffield had put on so far, being strong defensively to blank the Panthers and earn Grant Shervin his first shutout of the season. Coach Don McKee felt as though preparation was key to the game.
2 or 3 things. I think most important was real good practice this morning, and an awful lot of mental preparation this morning, and I think that most likely the second reason is a different arena. And I thought the ice surface here, we adapt to it better and play on it better. Naturally, we practice here, and that's a tough arena to play in Nottingham. I think the third thing is most likely I thought it was a different game with regards to officiating tonight than last night.
I think a lot of the boys anticipated that it would be a very tough competition with the 2 teams from Russia. I think Omsk and Lada, and they had one from Kazakhstan, which maybe wasn't as strong as the other 2. And we knew it was going to be very hard. And when I think we played the first game, we drew with Kazakhstan 4-4, and really we should have hammered them. And then when you had to play against the top teams, I think we went to watch them play the night before we were going to play Omsk, and we were sitting at ice level having to watch this game, and they were flying around. It's probably the roughest, dirtiest game I've ever seen, and probably the fastest. But sitting at that level, we probably didn't realise that we could match them. And over the next 2 days, I think we proved that we could play with them.
I think we gained experience as far as playing against a good quality opposition in a foreign territory. You know, I think mentally and physically we were challenged to the limit, and I think that can only benefit you in the long run.
I think a lot of you say the rough play happened because I think they were expecting it from us. They thought we were going to come out flying and hacking and slashing them, and I think they really come out and tried to do that with us. We found at the beginning of the games they would go around and hack and slash us. We would try and retaliate, and of course referees didn't take too kindly to the British or Canadian players doing that.
I think we were unfortunate there. I think the results don't really show how close we were, I think, from advancing. And again, maybe it came down to numbers, lack of experience possibly.
We arrived at the hotel, and it was a luxury hotel in Russia, but to us it was something that we'd probably never experienced. And to go outside in the morning, and it was in October, and it was snowing, and it was freezing, and you could see for about a mile was all rusty ships, and we just couldn't believe what we were seeing. And we went down to the rink, and you'd see dogs going around fighting for food, and kids as well, asking for if you had any money or stuff like that. It was, as I say, it was a culture shock, and I'm sure the boys were taken back by it all, and that's why every opportunity we had, we tried to give them a little bit. We're taking a lot of Mars bars and Snickers and food over, and water. So we used to try and hand it out at the end of the game to the kids that were hanging around. A lot of the boys took food over, but it was just, you can't explain how bad the food was. Some of the stuff was like dirty old toenails, and you couldn't really eat that.
When we went to Russia, I know that Dave and Don tried their utmost to make it as beneficial for us as they could, both on the ice and off the ice. And the hotel were fantastic to us too, but the food situation hurt, I think, because, you know, for example, Teeter Wynn got, you know, glandular fever, but he didn't eat that much either, and it might have been a rundown of his system because he was, you know, playing a lot, It was within a short span, the recovery rate, you know. It was a difficult situation. In hindsight, I don't think it benefited us. But I wouldn't take it back. You just have to put it down to experience. And I'm glad we went.
It was a brilliant experience and something that I'll never forget. It's always hard to say we shouldn't have done this or shouldn't have done that, but I'm sure if Don had the chance, he would do it all over again, as would Simsy. I'm sure the players would. We had a good, I think it was 5 or 6 days there, and the team really gelled together, and a lot of close friendships were bonded there. It was very good.
After tying the first leg in Manchester 2-2, just 3 days after they came back from Siberia, the Steelers were confident. And early on they took the lead on the power play through David Longstaff. Goalie Frank Pietrangelo was not too happy with the goal and felt it never crossed the line. He was going to let everybody in the whole arena know just how unhappy he was. It was a mistake by Ron Shudra deep in his own zone though that allowed Manchester straight back in the game through Stefan Katola. On a nice breakout, Rick Baban received a drop pass just inside the blue line and his slap shot went high over Shervin's catcher to make it 2-1 Storm. It was Tony Hando who showed us the importance of a face-off as he drew the puck to Ed Courtney. And Ed Courtney fired it home before either Frank Pietrangelo or the cameraman could react. At 2-2, the game was nicely poised, and with Sheffield forechecking very well, there was always chance of Steelers going in the lead. But Manchester had got the great speed to break away, and when Grant Shervin dropped this pop-up, Stefan Katola was there, right on hand, to push the puck right back in the back of the net. Sheffield was so desperate to win this game, coach Don McKee asked referee Andy Carson to take a look at Jeff Jablonski's stick. Don McKee was hoping that the curve was going to be larger than it's allowed to be as stated in the rulebook. This would mean the Steelers would get a power play. Of course, if he failed and Jablonski's stick was legal, the Steelers were going to be short-handed for delaying the game. After everybody had a good look at it, the stick was given back to Jablonski, and he says he was never worried. So it's the Steelers that are going to be short-handed for delaying the game. After missing a breakout, Manchester Storm broke forward again, and Thomason made some good work to break into the zone, but it was Allard with his wrist shot that went 5-hole on Grant Shervin. In the final minutes, Steelers threw everything forward, trying to get that extra goal. But even 6-on-5, it wasn't going to be enough to keep the Steelers in the 1998 B&H Cup.
You go forward rather than go backward, and Benson and Hedges is over for 1998. Now we're into league play, so we got to focus on that, and we have to get playing consistent hockey and winning hockey in here.
We had to play Manchester on the Wednesday or Thursday, and I think we arrived back late on the Monday night. And from my point of view, and a lot of the boys that I'd spoken to, you didn't realise how much it had taken out of you until we played that game on the Thursday. We were just 2 steps behind the whole night, and there wasn't really any excuses for it, except that a lot of the boys were suffering from the 5 or 6 days in Russia. I think it had taken out a lot more than any of the players had realised.
It was a lot of traveling, the time consuming, the situation where we came back and I think we were right into the quarterfinals or the semifinals of the B&H Cup, and unfortunately I think we lost out there, and that might have been through to fatigue with the time travel. Obviously the illness and injury didn't help.
I don't think we've really done that competition justice in the last 2 or 3 years. I know before that we'd won it maybe once or twice, and for the players it's disappointing, but also for the fans. I think it's hard for them to take in that when there's a Benton and Hedges final and it's played at Sheffield and your team's not getting anywhere near the final. It's very frustrating, and to see all the other teams and supporters coming to sit in your building and watch their teams win a trophy, it's very hard.
The Sheffield Steelers entered November with a mouth-watering clash against the Cardiff Devils, and it was the first chance for former Steeler Nicky Chin to play back in Sheffield. The Sheffield Steelers thought they struck first through Tony Hand. Once again, referee Rowe ruled that it was no goal because it had hit the goalie in the mask. Eventually, though, it was the Steelers that took the lead on a Scott Allison wrist shot that beat Holofsky. Then, after tremendous work by Ed Courtney to turn the puck over, it was going to be Ken Priestley who's going to get the puck and fire it home straight past Derek Holofsky. The game was action-packed, and when Doug McEwen slashed Tommy Plummer down, it looked though tempers were going to flare. But on top of another great defensive performance, Grant Shervin picked up his second shutout. With both the Bracknell Bees regular goalies injured, it was down to BNL goalie Richard Galacci and his backup, who was from the Bracknell youth system, to keep out the Steelers. Though Bracknell have been the Steelers' bogey team over the last few years, the Steelers really seem to have struggled against their aggressive play, particularly away in Bracknell when they were on the small rink. Every time the Bracknell Bees come to play in Sheffield, they come and they bring their best game. Things didn't quite go as planned in the early stages of the game, with Galacci making big saves and frustrating the Sheffield forwards. Fortunately, at this point, it was still only really just handbags. Come the second period, there was a great opportunity with Scott Allison skating up the ice 2-on-0 with T to win, but neither of them could find a way past the goalie Galacci. It was Bracknell, though, who eventually broke out. Tremendous work from Dale Junkin, which eventually won the puck. Deep in the corner, he centred, and Bracknell scored. Whilst Hackon Falkenhall was serving a penalty for 2 minutes for holding the stick, it was Bracknell again pushing forward. Some nice work on the wing. Colin Ward just slammed the puck straight through Brad Shervin's pads. Steelers kept pushing forward late in the game, and they pulled Brad Shervin, but Rob Stewart, with a nice turnaround, managed to put it in the back of the net from behind the red line. It's a 3-0 victory for the Bracknell Bees, a crushing blow for the Sheffield Steelers.
Well, I thought the first 2 periods went really well for the team, and obviously in the 3rd period there was some breakdowns, and they scored some goals, and we didn't capitalize on our chances in the first 2 periods. Then in the 3rd, I thought, and I think if we would have capitalized, the game would have been a little different. But that's how it happened. So.
And it was probably a frustrating time because I think the first 10 games of the league were very disappointing. We hadn't done what we'd set out to do. All the players in Don had set out goals at the beginning of the season that we would like to attain, and we're just nowhere near with the first 10 games of the league, and it was very disappointing. It's always going to be an uphill battle after doing so bad in the first 10 games.
And I think losing Teeter and Kale on the return from Russia had a major impact in the team's results for quite a while. I would assume 6 weeks, 7 weeks, we had a little bit of a spell where it became a numbers game. And again, as a team, we had to shuffle the lines, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work. We had to bring in a few new bodies, which again, you have to readjust to new players and different technique and feel comfortable playing together. The financial situation was really a bomb on a lot of us. I can't think of anybody who wouldn't have treated it the same way we did. Your livelihood's in jeopardy, and it was a difficult situation.
When the financial problems arose, was that the players had to all stick together. I think we did that. We tried to keep it out of our minds as much as we could, but it was very difficult, and we'd have the odd meeting here and there with the captains to try and put the players' minds at ease, but it was always there at the back of your mind. But as I say, you just had to get on with it. The management would always try and make sure that it didn't get down to the dressing room, but as you know, it's hard to try and keep that away from the players, and when the players found out, that obviously weren't too happy about things that were going on. But as I said before, we just had to try and get on with it. There was nothing we could do about it, and we had to do our job on the ice and hope that the people in the office did their job.
I personally never thought it was going to get to that stage where the plug was going to be pulled, but from what I gather and from what I've heard, it was very close. And we spoke earlier about how we really weren't informed until December, but in hindsight now we hear that things were late September, early October there was trouble, but we didn't find out about it until later. Whether that was good or bad, I think it helped us, because I think if it happened in October, you would have found that the team changed a lot. I think a lot of players would have felt it was in their best interest to leave.
The next team in town was Alex Dampier's Newcastle River Kings, and after a disappointing result in being shut out against the Bracknell Bees, the offense was on fire. Right from the very start of the game, the number 1 line of Tony Hand, Ken Priestley and Ed Courtney was there, and they were on fire. Only very good work from Wayne Cowley in this sustained spell of pressure was there to stop the Steelers from going ahead 1-0 in this game. Great save first from Priestley, and then went back to the point, and it was John Wynn who fired just wide. It was really, though, against the run of play that Newcastle scored the opening goal. After losing the face-off, it was Newcastle who broke out through Glenn Mulvenna. Newcastle eventually fed it back to the point, and it was picked up by Darren McCausland. He fired through Grant Shervin and put the River Kings ahead 1-0. Newcastle got a little bit more confident, and Rob Tremblay, breaking down the right, eventually took himself and the puck into the back of the net, and then he took the back of the net into the boards. The Steelers' defence weren't too pleased about that. So everybody paired up, pick yourself a partner, and it's a little bit of come dancing. Even Richie Uniacke and Sean Johnson managed to get together on this one. In the end, though, there was not much really brewing there, as the linesman managed to keep Trumbull quiet. The Steelers replied quite quickly, and Tony Hand, with one of the best passes you'll see, splits 3 Newcastle defensemen. Ed Courtney looked up and fed it straight to Ken Priestley. He could easily finish that one in the back of the net. The Steelers were slowly looking to turn the pressure on the Newcastle River Kings, and working the puck down low and then going to dig for it in the corners, playing a very good dump and chase game from Scott Allison. And after some very hard work by Scott Allison, David Longstaff picks up the puck and on the wraparound beats Wayne Cowley. The Sheffield Steelers were pushing forwards, and once again Jason Hayward was on the breakout. He looked up and eventually fed the puck back to David Longstaff, who went to the deke and beat Wayne Cowley. 3-1 Steelers. After a tremendous pass from Grant Shervin, the Steelers broke out again. Tony Hand fed it down the boards, and eventually Ken Priestley with the easy finish. It was 4-1 Steelers, and they were making it look easy until they gave up a power play. The Newcastle River Kings came forward, keeping the puck in the zone very, very well. Eventually, the puck came out to the point, and a great deflection by Glenn Mulvanna made it 4-2 Steelers. But that little glitch was not going to stop Scott Allison, who, for when he was fed by Rob Wilson, went 1-0 with Wayne Cowley, with a nice deke to the backhand side, put it in the back of the net. 5-2 Steelers, and it was the first time they'd scored more than 4 goals since the group stages of the B&H Cup competition. That is obviously a marker of how much the Sheffield Steelers offense struggled in the early part of last year. After a 4-2 reversal in Lower Parliament Street, it was Nicky Chin and the Cardiff Devils that came to Sheffield. It was the Sheffield Steelers that opened the scoring first, when Tony Hand fed Rob Wilson on the blue line, and his slap shot beat Derek Kolofsky. Everybody knows that ice hockey is a rough and tumble sport, but even linesman Hicks got hit by the puck. Unfortunately, the only sympathy he got was being sent to the penalty box. Good work by T to win allowed Richard Uniacke to show some of his offensive abilities as he stuffed this one in the back of the Cardiff net. Murph Priest managed to put the score back to 2-1 with this nice shot across Grant Shervin. But the Steelers extended the gap to 2 on the power play. Tony Hand with a heads-up play eventually gets the puck back off Ed Courtney. With his pass attempt across blocked, he beats in the rebound. After good work by Steve Thornton and Ivan Michulik, it was Cardiff legend Doug McEwen that walked unchallenged to the bottom of the circle and fired past Grant Shervin. It was something we saw quite a lot of this year. Ed Courtney with a bullet from the top of the circle. More classic hand Courtney and Priestley. Then Rob Wilson takes the puck deep in the corner. He looks up and gives it to Ken Priestley. Ken Priestley with a nice cross-ice pass to Tony Hand. He feeds it down to the goal line to Ed Courtney. His cross-ice pass sees it. Ken Priestley, and he puts it in the back of the net. Steve Moria pulled the lead back to 2 with this slap shot going 5-hole in Sherby. With Cardiff pulling their goalie, it was Tony Hand that wandered in all alone. But this shows how unselfish he is. He tried to feed Hacken Falkenhall. Nearly bobbled over Hacken's stick, but eventually managed to put it away. It was another good victory for the Sheffield Steelers at the Sheffield Arena. Somewhere where the Cardiff Devils struggled all year long.
The problems were getting deeper and deeper, and it was starting to affect the players and the fans and the management, and no one really knew what was going to go or what was going to happen. And to hear that someone who was going to come in and take over was great news. Just I think a lot of people had doubts about the new owner because they'd heard different things, or he'd had something to do with certain sport teams in Sheffield before, so I think it was difficult for them.
We felt that our backs were being put to the wall a little bit by Mr. Smith. I'm not positive whether that's the case. We'll never know really, because he didn't stay in charge long enough to find out whether all the hearsay of wage cuts and things like that would have happened. We don't know.
We didn't really know who he was, but that he played American football for some teams I didn't really know about. And I think we had a meeting when we knew they were going to take over. Don had met with him, and we had meetings with an assistant of his who was talking to the players and letting them know what was happening. And I think the first we really got to know him was before a game. We had a pre-game meeting, and one of the rooms off the corridor next to the changing room, and he come in and just wished the players luck. That was the first time we'd met him.
I think there was a few occasions where pay was going to be late. I think there was a few of us that lost out in the long term, financially possibly, but when you look back, the plug might have been pulled in December, and everybody would have lost a whole lot.
Terry Smith had made some statements to the management to that effect, what was going to happen. I don't know if it's for definite, but it was talking about taking pay cuts, and the thing we heard was if that wasn't going to happen, then the players were going to be sharing houses and cars. So obviously we got straight down there to find out what was happening, and we had a meeting with him, who more or less said that it would be in the best interest of us to take a pay cut, and so that it would help the team. At that point, I think he was asking us to take £200 a week, and the players just said no. And he just said that if it didn't happen, then some of the players would have to share houses and cars. And as you can tell from there, it was complete uproar, and everyone was wanting to know more about him. And I think it really put the players' backs up against the wall, and probably didn't trust him from then on.
Although the London Knights had struggled early on in the season, as the season went on, they'd really beefed up their side, including now Troy Crowder, who was one of the genuine tough guys that fought with most of the hard men in the NHL. It was the Steelers, though, that were going to open their account first with this one. Scott Allison dipsy-doodled around with the puck in the neutral zone to eventually feed Ed Courtney down the left wing. Courtney looked up, saw Ken Priestley free, and he fired past Mark Gavin. Good work by Rob Wilson helped create the second goal for the Steelers. After Jason Hayward came in, had a shot, and then Ed Courtney had a shot, Cavlin was hung out to dry. His hand put away the third rebound. London hit back next though, as Scott Curtin showed just how important it was to have a trailer on the play when he was in the perfect position to fire the puck high past Jimmy Hibbert. The London Knights game was starting to get a little bit better, and they were beginning to work very, very hard. After a nice breakout play between Harding and Lyons, the puck eventually breaks the right-hand side of Jimmy Hibbert's goal. After great work, the puck goes back to Lyons, and he makes no mistake in putting it past Jimmy Hibbert. It was Ken Priestley on the breakout with a nice little play to fire across Mark Cavlin to put the Steelers back in the lead again. But the London Knights did not want the Steelers to get too far ahead. So Scott Curtin fired past Jimmy Hibbert. As the game went on, Sheffield Steelers power play began to work. Seeing Tony Hand, Ken Priestley and Ed Courtney start to spread the puck around the ice, really stretching the London Knights defence. Good shot from Wilson allowed the rebound to go to Ken Priestley, and he put that away from point-blank range. It was then the turn of the London Knights power play to shine, though consisting slightly differently. It didn't stop Corey Lyons eventually coming forward with the puck and putting it in the back of the net. Sheffield extended their lead with one of the prettiest goals that you're going to see this season. Andre Marlowe made a great play to keep the puck in the zone. And then tic-tac-toe in the back of the net. Great play from Ken Priestley. Peter Hasselblad brought the London Knights back into it early in the third period with a shot from the point. But just to rub salt in the wound, James Hibbert let a soft rebound come out, and Jason Campo put the puck in the back of the net. The London Knights took the lead, and Jimmy Hibbert was pulled. With Sheffield Steelers 1-0 down, Tida Wynn took a nasty slash behind the back of the net. On the delayed call, the Sheffield Steelers managed to pull Shervey off the ice, keep the puck in the zone, and Derek Lightstill eventually managed to tie the game up again. It was yet another Rob Wilson blast from the point that put the Steelers ahead, beating Mark Cavlin with ease. And to put the icing on the cake, another Scott Allison breakaway, where he went 5-hole on Cavlin. He shot and scored to make the final score 8-6 to the Sheffield Steelers. A real shootout hockey game. With Sheffield in yet more financial trouble, the Nottingham Panthers are once again back in town with another make or break game for the Steelers organisation. As usual, the physical side of the Sheffield-Nottingham rivalry was quick to show. This time though, it was the battle of the X's. It was ex-Nottingham Panther Derek Laxdal versus ex-Sheffield Steeler Corey Bolio. You'd say the fight ended in a draw, but a little rabbit punch in the back of Laxdal's head, whilst on the floor, gave him a concussion, which pretty much kept him out of the game for the whole season. Sheffield were looking in dominant form, and Ken Priestley took the lead for the Steelers with a high finish past Trevor Robbins. More second period pressure from the Sheffield Steelers saw Tida Wynn find a gap that nobody, not even him, thought was there. It was right from the face-off. Tida Wynn laid the puck off to Scott Allison and a huge drive. Went 5-hole on Trevor Robbins, making it 3-0 to the Sheffield Steelers. Jason Weaver was not a happy camper, and he decided to take it out on Scott Allison. And after getting a couple of good early blows in on Scott Allison, both of them had a good go at one another, with it being a points victory to Jason Weaver. Both were given coincidental minor penalties to go and calm down. Whilst Weaver and Allison were in the box, it was Richard Uniacke that stepped forward and with a lovely finish put the Steelers ahead 4-0. As this was going on, Scott Allison stormed out of the penalty box and decided to take matters into his own hand. Scott Allison easily winning the first half of the fight, and just as they hit the ice, Weaver got back on top. Scott Allison, not a man that you would like to upset. Scott even gave us a slapshot finish. As Nottingham's frustration grew, so did the number of incidents. Yet another ruck just near the far end of the arena saw Tommy Plummer not very happy with Graham Garden. After a lot of pushing and shoving, it looked like really it was only going to be handbags at 10 paces. Graham Garden stepped to the side, and Tommy Plummer asked him if maybe he would just like to get it on. Very shortly the gloves were dropped and they were ready to go. Tommy Plummer got it on, and he gave Graham Garden a real lesson in how you do southpaw boxing. It was a very good victory for the Sheffield Steelers, who once again proved their dominance in the Sheffield arena, as they were pretty much able to outplay anybody that came their way.
I remember the game coming virtually to an end. I think there was only 20, 30 seconds left, and there was an incident in the corner that really, because of the score, was nothing. And then it was Randall Webb, I remember, was getting a little bit pushy. I don't understand why to the day. maybe it's a difficult situation when you're down 7-3. It's frustration at the end of a game, and I don't think anything was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, there was a little bit more pushing, and then I got an offer from Graham Garden, I remember, I think, and it was just one of those things and part of the game, and I don't think it went too bad for me, you know. But it gave the crowd a little bit, you know, something at a game that had really virtually ended. It gave them that little bit of a boost near the end, and I think the crowd got behind us.
The idea that we're trying to bounce off is that we're hoping that the supporters will cough up £250 units. We're attempting to get up to 90,000, which can then be added to the rescue package that's already there, which should then hopefully be enough funding to go into the Steelers and keep the thing afloat and belong to Sheffield and be run by the existing people.
The last half of the season, everyone realised that what the fans were doing, and I suppose they're just as much part of the team as the players, because they didn't want to see it go, and neither did the players. So I think everyone realised what the fans were doing, and that they were collecting so much money, and I think it was a brilliant time for the players to realise that the fans were 100% behind them.
It was made aware to us right from the beginning as to who was doing what to help and how much they were doing to help. And I think that it gave the players a big lift mentally to know that there was a lot of sacrifices being made by the management, by the fans, and by the players as individuals also.
It was a difficult time, because on the one half you were moaning that your money was a day behind, and then you'd have it, like I used to get on with Scott Allison, and he was having his tea one night, and some young kid, I think he was about 9 or 10, brought a bag full of coppers, his money box over, and said, can you put that in? I think that's when you realise that things are probably a little bit better than what you think they are, and that at that time you've got to just take a step back and just realise what everyone else is trying to do. And I think, as you say, it's a humbling time, because you're probably thinking that I want my wages, but you've just got to realise that it just wasn't there.
It was the Manchester Storm who, as everybody predicted at the start of the year, were the ones that blew the league apart. And when they came to the Sheffield Arena, they were looking to extend their lead at the top. Kelly Askew set them on their way. Katola and Tida Wynn decided that they didn't really like one another. And after a couple of nice cross checks from Tida Wynn, it was Hoffman that came in and decided he was going to sort it out. As Jamie van der Horst and Scott Allison jumped in to help Tida Wynn, it was Jamie van der Horst that was thrown out, the third man in. If you can work that one out, please send us a postcard. It didn't take long though for the Steelers to get back on level terms, and after good work from Tida Wynn, David Longstaff scored a nice dustbin goal. The Sheffield Steelers really started to show their patience on the power play, something that they'd not done too much of in the past. After good work from all the players involved, which was Scott Allison, John Wynn, David Longstaff, and eventually a nice 1-2 with Scott Allison and Rob Wilson. Rob Wilson with yet another bullet power play goal from the point. The Steelers extended their lead to 3-1. The Ken Priestley fed the puck to Hakan Falkenhall. Falkenhall flipped it at the net, and Richard Uniacke deflected it from about chest height. Once again we see Peter Angelo complaining about a goal that went in at the Sheffield Arena. Manchester got back on level terms though, with a move that they'd made all year, with Catola firing high from the hash marks, beating Jimmy Hibbert. A tremendous pass saw Kaliaski turn and then go 1-0, and he went 5-hole, and eventually got the rebound into the back of the net. Hacken Falkenhall wasn't too happy. Cale Short, though, not exactly known for his goal scoring, was the one that put the Steelers back in the lead. A nice little snapshot, and an unsighted Frankie Pietrangelo could not believe it. It was a night of unlikely goal scorers, though, because when the puck came back to Rob Wilson, it was a beautiful deflection into the top corner by Craig Chapman. Manchester weren't dead and buried, and as Brabant made the nice move on Hibbert, it was a tremendous goal for the Storm. Then after a mistake, a miscommunication between Jimmy Hibbert and Cale Short, it was the Manchester Storm, again, that were able to get back into this game. Overtime was required, and Ed Courtney stole the puck on the blue line and fired past Frank Pietrangelo to take the Sheffield Steelers past the Manchester Storm in this one. 6-5 after overtime. After being hit by injuries away from the Sheffield arena, the Steelers struggled and were shut out by both Nottingham and Ayr. It was the turn of the London Knights to come to the Sheffield arena to see what they'd got, and they opened the scoring very early on through Flinton. But that was it. That was the London Knights evening. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy some streets and deets. The game turned sad though when Mike Harding decided to have a go at Jason Hayward, and he split open some stitches that had already been apart on Jason Hayward's face. Hayward, not renowned as a fighter, felt that he was picked on by Mike Harding. Although the injury was bad to Hayward's face, it wasn't as bad as first expected. In a few stitches he was closed up and he was playing the next evening. As Harding was thrown out of the game, Captain Rob Wilson had a few words to say to him, but ex-NHL enforcer Troy Crowder jumped the bench, gave Wilson a lovely shot on the end of his chin, but Wilson managed to stand up, something that not many people would want to do. After a lot of grabbing and holding, not too much happened. Wilson and Crowder both got minor penalties. But that was it for the games in terms of incidents. It's just more back to streets and deeks. It was a great performance from the Sheffield Steelers, where finally they showed that they could put an opposition down and then put them out. The Sheffield Steelers once again faced off against the Manchester Storm in the Challenge Cup semi-final first leg. It was the Sheffield Steelers' second line that opened the scoring for the Steelers. And Scott Allison finished off this good move started by T to win. As the Steelers piled on the pressure on the power play, it looked like John Wynn had scored. As the goal went in, a lot of pushing and shoving started in front of Frank Pietrangelo's goal. To be honest, it was just a lot of grabbing and holding. Nobody really wanting to go in such an important game. On the resulting penalties, it was Ken Priestley that finished nicely after good work from the rest of the first line. At the start of the third period, the crowd at the Sheffield Arena got their second 2-for-1 deal of the evening. It all started at first when Craig Chapman and Rick Brabant decided they weren't too happy with one another. Rick Brabant winning convincingly in that little battle. The main event was just warming up at the back of your screen between Frank Kovacs and Rob Robinson. But unfortunately, like many main events, they've always been overshadowed by the undercard. As Kovacs left the ice, he had a few kind words of encouragement for the whole of the Manchester Storm bench. Brad Rubachuk particularly wasn't too happy with that. The good work from Van der Horst and David Longstaff. Ed Courtney picked up the puck. Good strength by Courtney eventually allowed him to pick up the puck and dipsy-doodle all the way across the zone. Nice stop by Pietrangelo, and then an impossible falling around wraparound by David Longstaff made it Steelers 4-0 up. Then after more good work from Courtney, it was Tony Ham that sealed it, 5-0 Steelers. It was considered by many to be the best Steelers performance of the season. But coach Don McKee still wanted more.
I was dreaming of 7-0 this afternoon, and the coach, and didn't get that high, so I never got comfortable. I thought 7-0 would have been a good score. The one thing against this Manchester hockey team, you can when you go back into their building, they have a reputation of not losing that in their building, and they're a pretty good hockey club in there, and they can score goals. And we got to go back and play them again. So I think that we're sitting with 5-goal lead, but that's nothing to take for granted against a good hockey club like Manchester.
I think it was a situation where we were prepared as much as we could be, and I think everybody, as individual players, played really above themselves, and collectively as a whole I thought we played great.
It's just one of those nights where everything seems to happen. I don't think the players thought the tie was over either after the end of that game. A lot of the players, a lot of the supporters might have thought that we were definitely in the final, but the players didn't think that way, because we knew how good the Manchester team were, and I think we proved that as well when we had to go and play there on the Sunday.
Motivationally, it was a great result for us, not only to finally get over that hurdle of beating Manchester, but it gave us something to aspire to again. The Challenge Cup, it kept us in the frame for a trophy, and it kept us mentally well, knowing that if we ran into Manchester in the playoffs, we'd feel comfortable, and that finally it paid off, that we did beat them.
The Newcastle River Kings came for their last visit of the year to the Sheffield Arena. It was Scott Allison that started with a great check on the Newcastle blue line. A wonderful move by Tida Wynn allowed Allison to put it into the empty net. The Steelers' second was beautifully fashioned by Jason Hayward. That allowed a diving Frank Kovacs to score his first of the season after many injury troubles, particularly with his knee. Good work from Ruggles. Eric Royal pulled one back for the River Kings. It was the Steelers again who were impressive on the power play. Passing the puck around well to John Wynn with the big fake slap shot, found Scott Allison to pass it into the empty net. Steelers made it 4 when Tony Hand made a great cross-ice pass to Falkenhall. He was on a search and destroy mission and fired it from the blue line into the back of the net. The Steelers' fifth goal was after more great work by Ed Courtney, Ken Priestley and Tony Hand, showing why they were the most respected line in the whole of British hockey. 5-1 Steelers and another great performance at the Sheffield Arena. With one eye on the playoffs and one eye on the second leg of the Challenge Cup semi-final against Manchester, the Steelers rested their team for the last 2 league games against the Manchester Storm and away against the Nottingham Panthers. But it was that Manchester Storm semi-final fixture that the Steelers were really thinking about. A 2-1 victory to the Steelers meant that they were through to the Challenge Cup final. That was something that the players could hold on to and maybe take confidence into the playoffs.
I think we went in relaxed, knowing that we had a 5-goal cushion, and it enabled us to just go out and play hockey and not having to worry about, possibly if we were only 1 or 2 goals up, it might have affected us mentally if they got a quick goal, or if anything happened like that. And I recall them getting a quick goal in the game, but because of the cushion and because of the relaxed feeling within ourselves, that we were able to put that aside, and we went on to get a goal. I think we got a goal back relatively quick right after that, and I think that took the wind out of them right away, and it helped us, and the game was really, I don't think, ever in doubt after that.
After we'd won the game on the Sunday, we went to a pub across the road in Manchester and had a sort of a celebratory drink, and it was just the whole team were on a high, and we realised that we had a good chance at winning the Challenge Cup, and I think we watched the game on BBC Two between Cardiff and Nottingham, and it was the overtime goal where Greg Hadden scored the winner. So we knew as soon as Nottingham were in the final that it wasn't going to be any easy road into the cup. So I think we really had to get focused for the final, which we did, and we played very well.
Come the playoffs, come the Bracknell Bees, and after 2 wins on the trot, it was a confident Steelers side. Unfortunately, early on in the game, PC Druin got a breakout, and he shot and scored past Grant Shervin. It was Craig Chapman again, with his aggressive style, got him in trouble, but this time with the big chief, Chris Brandt. Brandt and Chapman had a little bit of a dance, but nothing really happened, with Chapman grabbing a hold of Brandt's leg so he could hardly even move. The Steelers got back into the game when Tony Han linked up with Ken Priestley, and he finished nicely on the breakaway. A good check from Vanderhorst, and an even better check from Allison. Paxton Schulte was not a happy man. He decided he wanted to go with Allison. Unfortunately, Allison had a bad shoulder. He wasn't able to punch very well. So what he did is he went down and made a fine rugby tackle that any England prop would be proud of. There was yet more physical attention straight from the face-off. The puck wasn't even dropped, and everybody was ready to go. Colin Ward being the main protagonist. After a big rumble on the side, nobody was interested in getting it on with Tommy Plummer. Mind you, having seen what happened to Graham Garden, would you? A nice 3-on-1 breakout allowed Frank Lascala to put it high past Grant Shervin. 2-1 Bees. The Bees extended their lead when Jeff Johnston got this nice little tip in and a Matt Cote pass. Ron Schuder on this spin-around slap shot gave the Steelers fans and players a little bit of hope in this one. Good work by Frank Kovacs created a turnover in the Bracknell Bees defensive zone. And this wrist shot by Ron Schuder tied the game up at 3. As the Steelers pushed forward, it was Dale Junkin that fed PC Druin. Nice little move by him, made it 4-3 Bracknell. The goal was so important, Junkin felt that he had to jump on top of PC Druin. Mind you, I bet you he didn't call him Pierre Claude. The Steelers threw everything at Bracknell, and Craig Chapman threw another good hit on Shane McCosh. Frank Lascala wasn't too happy about it, nor was Frank Kovacs. Now I think it was the two Franks here discussing the merits of having either a goatee beard or a full facial beard. After a short standoff, they decided that they were going to keep disagreeing with one another. So it was penalty box rides for both of them. The Steelers poured on the pressure. But with the time running down, they just couldn't find enough. And once again, the Bracknell Bees beat the Sheffield Steelers in Sheffield.
After beating London in overtime 4-3, we realised that we couldn't just go and play well against Bracknell. For us to beat Bracknell, we have to play outstanding, and we didn't do that. We seemed to struggle a little bit, and they got the win that they needed, and it really put us on the back foot.
I came into the game in such a great mindset. You know, my frame of mind was so positive, and I was expecting great things in the playoffs, and I was very let down, and as were my teammates, you know. But again, like you said, we were playing against a good quality hockey team who had done very well against us all year long, and I thought finally we were going to put that behind us and get a good result. Something that we deserved, I felt, and it didn't go our way that night.
The London Knights came to town with the Steelers in a must-win situation, but just 3 days before the Challenge Cup final, injuries were also a worry. The Sheffield Steelers didn't have to wait long for their first. After Andre Marlowe missed a great opportunity, the puck was going to get recycled down low, and Ed Courtney was going to give a great pass on the backhand side out to Ken Priestley, who finished in great style. Craig Chapman was again in a fighting mood, where this time he decided he was going to take on Travis Thiessen. Thiessen, not known for his fighting skills but more from his offensive talent, was Chapman's first victory of the season. The Steelers' second started with Ken Priestley's smooth skating and a great deflection off a tee-to-win pass by Ken Priestley. 2-0 Steelers. It was the Ken Priestley show tonight. This time he fed Ed Courtney. Courtney gave it up to Tony Hamden. After his fan shot, he passed it back to the point. Andre Marlowe fed Ed Courtney, and he walked into the back of the net. It was a bad night really for Travis Thiessen, because as David Longstaff bore down on him, he pulled the move, sent Thiessen to score. A nice backhanded pass set up, see the win. Good work by Peter Hasselblad, set up Ian Cooper. He walked alone into the Steelers zone and fired it high past Glenn Shervin. With the Sheffield Steelers' second line really starting to click. It's goals like this that really showed their worth to the Sheffield Steelers organisation. With the puck being turned over in the offensive zone, Scott Allison fed T to Win. T to Win was unfortunately poke-checked by Greg Gatto, but it was Win that went to the corner. When he looked up, he used his speed and great stick work to get past two men, then fed Scott Allison for the point-blank finish. Troy Cowder went coast to coast for the London Knights with a beautiful finish from just inside the top of the circle. High to the blocker side of Grant Shervin. That was 2 goals for the London Knights. Unfortunately though for them, it was 5 for the Steelers. Soon to be 6 though, when Frank Kovac decided that he was going to get in on the scoring. A beautiful deke to the backhand side and he went by the goalie. Ed Courtney got the Steelers' 7th when he fired it straight through. It hit the post and Courtney picked up the rebound to slam it into the back of the net. Unfortunately, Mark Cavlin must have felt somewhat like washing. A number of times had been hung out to dry. Kovac's got another good chance later on in the game, but unfortunately he could not convert. A great pass from Cale Short.
It was a chance again to put everything behind us from the season. The Russian trip, the injuries, the illness. the financial situation. It was a chance for us to just go out, play a one-off game, and know that there was a prize at the end of that day.
It was the biggest game of the season to us. The final at home in front of your own fans and the extra seating put in. It was a special moment, especially for some of the players that have been there a little bit longer, because that's what it used to be like all the time in the old days. The fans used to pack the place, and it sort of brought a lot of good memories back, as I'm sure it did for the fans, about the trophies that have been won in the past. So, as I say, it was a brilliant day.
It was like a cauldron of noise. I remember coming out, and it was just such a boost. And I remember thinking, you know, if we got off to a great start, that was going to help us get off to a great start. And if we got off to a great start, then, you know, the odds were in our favor that we were going to win.
It definitely gives the players more confidence if you know that your goalie's going to be there for when you make a mistake. It frustrates you, the team you have to play against as well, if they realise that to get past you, they've still got to get past Sherby, and it really helped us in the last part of the season.
I think we dominated from start to finish. It was a great feeling. You know, we had a great night. You know, we put a lot of things behind us and just enjoyed ourselves, and really it was a great reward for a lot of hard work that we'd put in, on and off the ice.
It just seemed to be Sheffield fans everywhere, and that's probably a special moment.
After the Steelers' victory in the Challenge Cup, it was back to playoff action for the Sheffield Steelers, but it was a disappointing defeat away in Bracknell, leaving the Steelers a double-header weekend against the Manchester Storm if they planned on getting through to the Final Four. Unfortunately, the Sheffield Steelers went down in Manchester on the Saturday night, despite a great effort from everybody involved, and Scott Allison, with 2 goals, nearly brought the Steelers back into it.
We went into the game very positive, and they went 3 goals up.
I felt that, you know, if we got a goal, we could turn things around. With, you know, we had spoke earlier about the offensive power on our team within the top 2 lines, and I felt 3 was far. Like, at 2-0, I was never worried. 3-0, I wasn't so much worried. I just felt that time was probably going to get in the way.
We had pressure going in from every angle. As I say, we couldn't get past the goalie.
And I remember personally getting an excellent scoring opportunity at 3-0 down. Eddie gave me the puck in the middle of the slot, and I went from backhand to forehand, and I missed the net, and I was going low to the stick side, and I remember thinking, coming back to the bench thinking, I had the chance to bring us back into the game.
Then we got the 2 goals, and I think we had the whole third period to try and get the 3rd goal in.
And I remember we got a big buzz off that, and I remember yeah.
Steps out, you got the power play.
Yeah, and we were starting to take it to them. But, like I said, I think 3 made it that much more difficult, and they defended well.
But that's the thing about great teams, which Manchester are. They had the goalie there that would make up for all the mistakes the players made. We just couldn't find a way through. That probably added to the boys' disappointment in the dressing room after the game.
If we would have gotten a good result that night, we would have went on and probably won the finals. You know, but it's easy to say that sitting here in the summer after it's over.
Unfortunately, it was never to be for the Steelers, so it was going to be a Sunday night where the Manchester Storm played in Sheffield in a nothing game. The only thing the game really meant was Ken Priestley's retirement, as he'd made it clear that he was no longer going to come back to Sheffield. The other thing that was also clear from this game, that the Steelers' financial situation was a lot more serious than most of us feared. In a game that Don McKee had decided to let everybody play, with Ken Priestley, Rob Wilson started on the wing. It was quite obvious from early on it wasn't going to be Sheffield's night, as Hoffman finished neatly after a good pass from Brabant. In another defensive lapse, it was Tomlinson that put the Manchester Storm 2-0 up. On the power play from the point, it was that man Hoffman again. pushed it home. Grant Shervin was pulled at the end of the first period, allowing youngster Craig Lindsay to go in goal. Unfortunately, he'll never work out how this shot from Rick Revamp managed to squeeze past him. The Steelers, though, eventually did get a goal. After great work from that man Ken Priestley, the puck went to T to win, and he managed to fire home on a deflection. It was Ed Courtney that was on hand to drive home a nice low rebound and make it 4-2 to the Manchester Storm. But it wasn't going to be Kenny's night. The Sheffield Steelers pulling the goalie to try and get Kenny that goal. Stefan Catola managed to turn the puck over in the Steelers' zone. With just an empty net to go at, he fired home easily. With the crowd giving a standing ovation for the last 2 minutes of the game, Ken Priestley had one last chance to try and score, but it was never to be. It was Ken Priestley's night, but the Manchester Storm won 5-2. Emotions were high with both the players and the fans. Ken Priestley, knowing that this was going to be his last appearance at the Sheffield Arena as a Sheffield Steelers player, it was enough to bring tears to anybody's eyes, including his.
To go into that final game on the Sunday and know it was Kenny's last game, and it was sort of a carnival atmosphere sitting in the room. There was a lot of joking going on with Kenny, and realising he wasn't going to be back, and probably a little bit emotional for some of the players, and we just tried to have a good laugh.
I'll never forget the influence he had on the team, or me personally. You know, I think he brought out the best in a lot of us. And yeah, and he gave us this feeling that, you know, with him in the team, we were always going to have a chance at whatever. And he'd be missed. He was a great hockey player and a great person, family man.
It's really sad to see a player like Kenny leaving. Someone I've admired since I used to play in Whitley Bay years ago, and to get the chance to play with Kenny and to also be one of his friends is very nice. Probably the night in Nottingham, the night we won the league. We were down a few goals. Got off to a tough start. I remember right off the face-off taking a cheap shot from Ross Lambert, butt end under my eye. And I remember that they were trying to go with this physical approach that, because there was 2 games left in the season, they were trying, it seemed, to antagonize us into getting stupid penalties and maybe missing out on the next night, and they were kind of hoping for a good result that night, and then if a few guys got thrown out, then we would have a tougher time the next night. I remember Kenny being targeted all the time, and he handled it so well, you know, slashes, cross checks, high sticks. He was such a competitor, and, you know, such a physical presence as far as a finesse presence, and very strong-willed to get through it, and to score 5 goals in Nottingham that night. I think the fans realised that Kenny wouldn't be back as well, and a lot of it was directed to Kenny. As I said before the game, the players had their time with Kenny. A lot of just say goodbyes and wishing him luck and stuff like that. And I'm sure that the fans saw their chance during the game to show the appreciation of probably 4 years. Probably the best player to come to this country.
months ahead.
Survival of the quickest.